everybody. Welcome back to Exploring the Lord of the Rings. My name is Corey Olson, the Tolkien Professor, and I am delighted to be back with you guys today. So I was about to say, let me explain the reason why I'm late, but really I guess I should say, let me explain the reason why I'm late this week. Because I actually, unlike many weeks, when I have a rather ill-defined excuse for being late, this week I have a rather good excuse in that I was just on the phone with the Commissioner of Higher Education in the state of New Hampshire, whose calls I tend to take when he dials me up these days. And we just had a lovely conversation. He's actually a lot of fun. Not only did this guy make 2 Harry Potter references during our last meeting, but he made a Monty Python reference tonight during our phone call. So I'm like, okay, like this guy's all right. You know, I think we can live with this. Anyway, that's been really, really good. So just for those of you who are listening who haven't had a chance yet to see my announcement from last Thursday, I held a session last Thursday night making my big announcement. Our big announcement, of course, is that Signum University has entered the state certification process. We are really excited to be working with the Department of Education in the state of New Hampshire, who have been awesome, as I've just been saying, and we're super excited about moving into. And this is something that I just have a hard time wrapping my mind around. Signum has been such a great idea for such a long time, and it's been this wonderful little thing that we've been building and creating, and so many of you have come along with us as supporters and early adopters and believers in the concept from the very beginning. But the idea that we're actually moving forward now, that we're taking the step to, we're finally now at the place where we can take a step forward to be, fully legal, fully legit, and there I'll be sitting with the other presidents of other universities incorporated in the state of New Hampshire, and it's kind of amazing. So that's been really, really great. And of course, let's see, where did it go? Here it is. Just to share with you, this is where you can see our information here. We put actually. Let me go to the homepage, because if you want to read more about it, our latest blog post here has this is a link to my session from last Thursday, and a longer description of what's going on here. We do, of course, also need help. One thing that I did, many people were asking, what can we do to help? And I was like, I'm glad you asked, because we do need help, and what we do need help with is raising money. Of course, we designed to pay our own expenses, and we don't have a lot of surplus, but the expenses are high. The fees to get in, both at the state certification level, and then, of course, as we'll be moving forward, applying for accreditation after this, those fees are fairly steep. You can go, so here, again, this is just on the signumuniversity.org homepage, and you'll see our blog post right here on the homepage where you can get all this information. If you click here to this button, or if you go on our donate tab down to the credential fees page, that was the first page that I had there. This gives you all the information on the fees that we are confronted with here in the state certification process. $23,700. It's a lot to get into the door here in the certification process. That's to be fully incorporated and certified in the state of New Hampshire. But here's the good news. The good news is that we have had an awesome response already to our call for help since Thursday night when I made my announcement. So it's Tuesday now. So in the last 5 days, we've already raised over $14,000 towards our credentialing fees. So we're already well over halfway there. We're like 60% of the way already to our goal in less than a week, which is absolutely wonderful. I am so grateful, as always, for the generosity of everybody. In fact, I was just kind of bragging about you guys to the Commissioner of Higher Education. He was asking about, fundraising. It's like, are you going to be able to do your incorporation fee? And I'm like, hey, we put the word out to our people, and we've already raised $14,000. And he and I were talking about, we think Signum University may be the first crowd-funded university ever, right? So that's it. So Marielle, this is a really good question. Marielle asks, are these fees one time, or will the annual budget need to be increased? Okay. For state certification, these fees are mostly one time. The incorporation fee, that's just to become incorporated in the state of New Hampshire. That's a one-time fee. The comprehensive review fee, most of these are for the review process that we're going through now. There will be re-review. I mean, that's sort of the standard part of the process. We get to be re-reviewed, every, I think, 5 years in the state of New Hampshire. So that's something that's going to come up regularly, but it won't be like we'll have to do this, $24,000 annually for this. For accreditation, the situation is a little different. The costs are a little bit steeper actually to get in, and then there are annual fees, which are more significant. But that's the next adventure after we get through this stage. So that's where we are here. Anyway, so I encourage you, those of you who have been excited to follow Signum and to see us through this process. Now is the moment when there is so little standing in between us and being a fully established and sort of loud and proud university in ways that we've never been before, and I find it even hard to kind of imagine. So, any help that you can give, certainly if we raise money beyond our $23,007 here, we're gonna save that up for the accreditation process, because we're gonna certainly need every penny we have for that. So. Anyway, that has been just a really, really exciting time, and we are we're getting there. So. All right. And yes, as Sharon is reminding me, for those of you who are, and I know, for those of you who are not like enrolled in our master's degree program, it might seem like, well, this program, right? If you're enjoying exploring the Lord of the Rings, this is not part of the accreditation and certification process, right? It might seem like a little bit irrelevant, but it's actually really very relevant, because Signum University and the moving forward of Signum University, and through that process, through the certification and accreditation processes that we are entering now, we are. This is what's going to provide us with the kind of financial foundation to be able not only to ensure that we can continue this programming indefinitely, but also be able to expand as well. My own hope, my own vision for Mythgard stuff, is not only to be able to continue doing all the awesome Tolkien stuff that I do, as well as a little bit of a few other things also that I do with Mythgard Academy, but a lot of Tolkien stuff, exploring the Lord of the Rings and Film and my Grifflet stream and everything else. But I would love to see us expanding and doing similar things in other, with other groups of fans, and with other, to be doing stuff with, I don't know, lots of other fandoms and people who have, like Tolkien fans did for so long, wanting the same kind of desire that I was responding to in my podcast originally, to be able to have and to encourage, a really serious, interesting, in-depth intellectual discussion of, this material that people love and haven't had maybe, so much of a chance to really immerse themselves in an environment where they can have those kinds of discussions. I'd love to extend that, outwards as well, to different sci-fi communities, other fantasy communities. There's lots of stuff that we could do. And I'd love to do that and put us in a place to, so not only continuing, but expanding. That's my goal for Mythgard and the establishment of Signum, and pushing Signum through this process, bringing us to the place where we're legitimate, where we're able to expand our graduate program, expand that also into an undergraduate program, which is our goal. But I don't need to give my whole spiel again. I talked about this stuff on Thursday, and I'm already late, so I should probably restrain myself a little bit here before I end up giving my whole hour-long story again, because I'm super excited about this stuff right now. But anyway, so I commend the recording of that session to you. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, I hope you will. Anyway, so thanks very much for everyone who has already supported this, and I hope that I will be definitely sharing with you our progress as we move forward here. So that was my primary announcement. Of course, lots of other things going on. One is that, of course, for those of you who are or have been in the Signum program, don't forget summer registration is open. So and for those of you who have been thinking about enrolling in Signum courses, thinking about maybe going for your master's degree. Maybe you're a school teacher or something like that. Well, what better time to begin, right? Now that we're finally working through this process. The time is now, so no need to wait any longer. But anyhow, so just wanted to recommend that to you. Our summer semester begins in a few weeks in May. So. Just about a month from now. So now's a really great time to be looking at our summer courses, look through our concentration offerings, and begin to see what kind of an awesome master's degree program you could put together, because it's pretty sweet. And of course, other quick announcement, London Moot. London Moot is coming up very, very soon now. In just a few weeks, at the end of April 28th. So especially if you're in Europe or in England, or you've been burning for a reason to get over there, there's still time both to register and to get over there. Anyway, I would definitely recommend that. I can't wait to get over there and meet everybody. So everybody who can make it. So thanks all. And a couple of you are asking. So I'll use this, Ethelot, I'll use your question as a transition, right? About the Fall of Gondolin book announcement. Very exciting news. Always very exciting news when a new Tolkien book is announced. I am excited about the Fall of Gondolin. I have to admit, I'm not over the moon about the Fall of Gondolin book. And the main reason I don't know. I mean, I don't want to be sort of narrow-minded about it, right? When I hear that something like the Fall of Gondolin is coming out, what I want is more. I want more Fall of Gondolin than we have already. I want hitherto undisclosed Tolkien manuscripts in which he wrote, somebody actually discovered that Tolkien did finish the, Tuor and the Coming to Gondolin that we get the first tantalizing chapters of in Unfinished Tales. That's what I really want, right? And if that were coming out, I would be, I'd be lining up at the bookstores, like it was back in the Harry Potter days or something. But of course, that's not what's happening here. The function of this, just like the Beren and Luthien text, this is my understanding of it. The function of the Fall of Gondolin text is to essentially package what we have of Gondolin, so that it could be, so that it's there in one package, so that people can read all the different versions of the story of the Fall of Gondolin as Tolkien thought it through. And obviously the Fall of Gondolin, such an important story, really the first story that Tolkien wrote, the first Middle Earth story that Tolkien wrote. So it goes way back to the very beginning, and that was still the only one. The version that he wrote at the beginning, back in the Book of Lost Tales, is the only complete version of the Fall of Gondolin he ever wrote. So anyhow, it's very cool to have everything packaged up together. But if you know the material, if you've read the Book of Lost Tales, if you've read Unfinished Tales and all that stuff, I don't think there's going to be anything new. Maybe I'll be wrong and delightedly surprised, but I don't think there is. Therefore, it's cool and it's going to be beautiful. I'm sure it's going to be beautiful. These books about, the Children of Húrin and Beren and Luthien are gorgeous books, right? So totally worth having, even just for that. but anyway, it's so that's kind of my understanding of what it is. So am I excited about it? Yeah, sure. It's going to be cool, but it's not like it's going to be revolutionary. I don't think. Again, I don't think there's any totally undisclosed material there. So anyway, that's the Fall of Gondolin reaction for those of you who wanted to hear about that. As for the news about how much money they're planning to spend on the Lord of the Rings series at Amazon, all I got to say is pick up the phone, Amazon. I'm right here. Right, I am right here, and I will put you on my VIP list right under the Commissioner of Higher Education in the state of New Hampshire, and then I'll put Amazon Prime people right under that, and I'll take your call, and we can totally work out terms. It'll be very convenient for you. So that's my other reaction to the other news. All right. But let's get back to work. We've got Strider v. Butterbur to go on today. We're going to see Gandalf's entire crack squad, right? So this is Gandalf's Bree-land emergency backup system that we see being deployed in its fullness here during their evening here in Bree, though ironically neither one of them, neither Strider nor Butterbur, able to stop Frodo from messing things up rather significantly in the common room. So we're going to look at that. We were just, of course, we just had Butterbur coming in and apologizing last time. We didn't quite get to his letter. We will see. We will see if we can get to his letter here today. And boy, is this Druid's Fire? Is this a new record? Right, that my character went AFK before I even started talking about the first slide. That's a bad sign, I think. Anyway, okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Okay. First, Lincoln, great question here, or rather great observation, Lincoln. This was my favorite. This was awesome. So Lincoln has just been reading Macbeth. He's sort of has come late to the Shakespeare party and has just been reading Macbeth. Okay, it says, one of the less famous elements of the play, certainly less famous than the Birnam Wood attacking the castle or the nun born of woman. Those are the Tolkien parallels everybody always talks about, right? Tolkien himself talked about the, until great Birnam Wood to high Dunsinane Hill shall come prophecy, and how the Ents marching on Isengard sort of fulfill that in a way cooler way than it gets fulfilled in the play. That's a connection that Tolkien explicitly owned. The parallel between the no living man may hinder me fulfillment of the Witch King prophecy, yet you look upon a woman, parallel with Macduff, being from his mother's womb untimely ripped. That's another, of course, favorite parallel with Macbeth. But Lincoln, you are absolutely right. This is a more obscure element than that, but a really interesting one. The scene where Macduff goes to Malcolm, son of the murdered King Duncan, to try to convince him to lead a revolt against Macbeth, who has already proven himself a tyrant by this time. Malcolm says it will never work, and tells Macduff all about his bad habits and vices. Now, Macduff brushes off the first few, saying in effect, nah, it's okay. We can find a workaround, right? It's like, it's okay. So, all right, you're not the most sterling individual. We can work with this, absolutely. But when Malcolm delivers an exhaustive list of his own faults and failings, some of which are truly horrible, right? And asks, do you still think I'm fit to be king? Macduff throws his hands up in frustration, saying, fit to be king? You're not fit to live. You're doomed. I'm doomed. The whole blasted country is doomed. At this point, Malcolm retracts everything he just said, explaining that he actually possesses none of the character flaws he claimed. He said all that to test Macduff, to make sure that the latter wasn't a spy seeking to entrap him for Macbeth. After this, of course, the two team up and go take down Macbeth. The parallel is less clear than the more famous examples alluded to above, but something about Strider initially posing as a rascal to test Frodo and company belatedly reminded me of this exchange. This is a really great insight, I think, Lincoln. Now, I don't know, was Tolkien thinking of this? I mean, was he thinking of Malcolm and Macduff when he wrote that scene? I don't know. Nor do I think it really matters. The parallel is really good, right? Is really cool. Now, it's not exactly the same, right? The dynamics in the scene aren't precisely identical with Strider and Frodo, for instance, as they are with Malcolm and Macduff. For instance, when you look at like, why is Malcolm doing this, right? Why does Malcolm, who is the heir of the lawful king whom Macbeth murdered, why is he posing as a complete scoundrel? Why does he claim that he has all these vices? What he seems to be screening for is relatively clear, right? Does Macduff just want revenge against Macbeth? Because if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I've read the play, Lincoln, but if I remember correctly, Macduff's kids have already been killed, right? So Macbeth is already off to Macduff's whole family by this point. So I think that Malcolm is basically saying, are you just out for revenge? Do you just want to take out Macbeth, or are you really looking to do what's right? Like, do you care? So he tries to suggest essentially, look, if you don't like Macbeth, frankly, I'm probably going to be worse, right? You have every reason to think I'm going to be an even worse king than he. And if Macduff is still like, I don't care, I'll partner with anybody, howsoever vile, in order to take down Macbeth, then that tells you something about his real motivations, right? So that seems to be, it's how I've always taken that scene. Malcolm to be testing what Macduff's intentions and motivations really are in that scene. Okay, he doesn't yet know of his kids have been murdered, though, haven't they, Mad Violinist? The kids, that we've already killed the young Fry of treachery by that time, but Macduff hasn't heard yet. Okay, right. Ross shows up right after this to give him the news. Okay. Anyway, so the. But still, the point is he's assessing what is Macduff's motivation, right? What is Macduff's, what is he really out for? Does he care about the kingdom, or is he just Macbeth's enemy and wants help getting rid of Macbeth? So it's not exactly parallel in that sense, right? When you think about what is going on with Strider and what. Sort of why Strider is, acting like a rascal, as we were talking about. He's not testing Frodo's character in the same way, right? He's not trying to ascertain what Frodo's motivations are. He's not testing the same thing. But I do really like. I do really like the parallel. The parallel still seems to be kind of apt, that posing as a rascal in order to test them, to see what their reactions are, and then reveal yourself, actually, I'm not really a rascal at all. That is kind of too close not to think about. And it makes me wonder, frankly. I wasn't thinking of it as a question of him really testing Frodo's motivations, but maybe there is an element of that, actually. That he... we were looking at John Cassel's reading last week from his post, where he was talking about how noticing the effect of the objections that Strider was making, or the obstacles that his rascalitude was sort of posing to Frodo, and how it kept drawing Frodo out into sort of asking questions that Strider could answer, and to essentially bringing him to a place, by raising his suspicions to a place where his suspicions could be allayed, rather than merely looking like an effective con artist all the way through. So anyway, I still like that. I still really like that. I still really like that reading. But could there be a way in which he is also testing Frodo's motivation? Goodness knows. I mean, we talked about this a little bit in connection to their exchange after Frodo takes off the ring in the common room, right? Strider's got to be wondering what the heck is going on and what this guy is thinking. I mean, presumably he's heard enough from Gandalf, and probably even from Bilbo, to assume that Frodo's not an idiot, right? But if he's not an idiot, then what is he doing? Right? What does he think he's doing? What is his motivation? What's going on here? Or even maybe it's that. Maybe it's sort of to test how much of an idiot he is, right? If he comes in posing as a rascal, will Frodo just be like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever, I'll follow you far from help? Maybe he's testing how strong a hold the ring has on Frodo, Mike. That's a really interesting suggestion too. Would he know that much detail about the working of the ring and how it operates? I don't know, perhaps. I could imagine Gandalf sharing that with him. His own concerns, his own anxieties about Frodo, knowing that the kind of danger that the possession of the ring would put Frodo in. I could imagine Gandalf sharing that with Strider. I don't really know. But anyway, so it's... I think that there's a lot here. So, Lincoln, I think this is a really fascinating parallel. And this, by the way, is one of my favorite things about sort of looking at comparisons with like potential sources and stuff. People, I find, people often, I find, get really kind of fixated on like identifying for certain, like, was this really a source? We know Tolkien read Macbeth, but like, could we prove that he was definitely thinking of this scene from Macbeth when he wrote this passage? And that's kind of interesting, right? I mean, I'm not saying that that's not, an interesting question. But like I said at the beginning, my answer to it is, I don't care, actually. I mean, it'd be kind of cool if he were, I guess. But whether he was or not, it doesn't change the fact that putting that scene from Macbeth next to this scene shows up some interesting lights, right? It helps us to see the scene, by comparing and contrasting the two, we can begin to sort of see some new things in a new light. And to me, that's the point, right? That matters to me a great deal more than the question of, what was in Tolkien's mind when he wrote this scene, which, I don't know, from my point of view, seems to me, it's kind of an interesting trivia question, but at the end of the day, it seems to me more like a trivia question, rather than really just kind of thinking of the living relationship between these two texts, independent of, the intention of the author explicitly. But anyway, cool. So, yeah. Oh, Matt, that's interesting. On the Shakespeare point, is there something of Henry V's visiting his soldiers on the eve of Agincourt as well? So King Henry in disguise going among his people to sort of see what they're thinking and what's going on with them. Potentially. I mean, it's not, the parallel there isn't quite as tight. But, it's interesting to see there is a sense in which Aragorn is in a position essentially to kind of like exploit his standing deception, right? His standing disguise, right? In ways which are actually which do have some similarity to the way that that King Henry acts in some ways. But yeah, cool, very good. Yeah. Rinroos, I've often thought in that same kind of way. Rinroos says, speaking as a creative person who draws on many influences, there's no point in trying to prove anyway. I might have been thinking of a piece of music as I composed, but I might not even be able to identify what piece I was thinking about when I wrote the music I composed. No, absolutely. I have always felt that the kind of argument, and certainly I know that all source criticism doesn't do this or doesn't just sort of settle for this, but to me the kind of source criticism that I find most unsatisfying is the kind that merely tries to sort of identify things, right? To be, to try to make an argument to say, Tolkien definitely was drawing on this thing for this work. And it's like, okay, maybe not, but maybe, but so what? And as you suggest, Rinroos, it's a much more complicated process. This is a much more organic process. Think of Tolkien's own metaphors for this, right? It's all about the cauldron of story, right? It's not about, you can't just kind of separate it out in all those ways and everything. So, yeah. Anyway, cool. All right. Yeah. Yeah. Good. Okay. Let's move. We could talk about Shakespeare and Tolkien all night, which is actually a surprisingly rich kind of thing to talk about. Tolkien is not sort of in Shakespeare's orbit as much as many English writers are, but still, there's quite a bit of Shakespeare that you can't grow up English without having Shakespeare, sort of in you like that. It's just, it happens. All right. Let's keep going. Okay. Or rather, let's start. Goodness. Okay. Barlaam, finishing his confession to Frodo, and saying how Frodo's only to name it if he needs any help, right? Leaving the letter aside, I promise Gandalf no less. Barley, he says to me, this friend of mine from the Shire, he may be coming out this way before long, him and another. He'll be calling himself Underhill, mind that. But you need ask no questions, and if I'm not with him, he may be in trouble, and he may need help. Do whatever you can for him, and I'll be grateful, he says. And here you are, and trouble is not far off, seemingly. What do you mean? Asked Frodo. Okay, first of all, what can we... This is a fun game to play in close reading in this section, right? What can we learn about Gandalf's state of mind, right, from the evidence? We have several pieces of evidence here, right? We've got some negative evidence from Strider, namely that what Strider doesn't know, right, and messages that were not left for Strider. But we have positive evidence from Butterbur. We have Butterbur's account of what Gandalf told him, and then, of course, we have Gandalf's letter itself. Now, Emma Thorne is asking, this conversation with Gandalf was how long ago? Months ago, right? This is around midsummer of this same year, and it's currently, the very end of September now. So it's like 3 months, basically, since he had this conversation, 3 to 4 months since this conversation with Butterbur. So notice what we get here, right? First, he calls Frodo a friend of his, right? He emphasized, so from the start, right, both with Butterbur and in talking about Frodo, what Gandalf is emphasizing is friendship, right? He is appealing to Butterbur as a friend, and he is asking him to treat Frodo as a friend for friendship's sake, right? Yes, tension, this is, in fact, reported speech. So this is Butterbur's voice. I think... he's quoting here, but I think, this seems to fit pretty well with the way that Butterbur talks. I don't hear Gandalf's tone very clearly here. Does Gandalf actually call Butterbur Barley? Right? I don't know. I mean, we know he is called Barley, right? But I'm not sure that Gandalf calls him that. Maybe he does. I don't know. But anyway, okay, so this friend of mine from the Shire, he may be coming out this way before long, him and another. He'll be calling himself Underhill, mind that, but you need ask no questions. So, on the one hand, he lets Butterbur into the secret of Frodo's identity, right, to make sure that Butterbur, is not confused, right? He'll be calling himself, so keep in mind, he'll be calling himself Underhill, right? And he'll be with another. He's expecting him. So Gandalf expects Frodo to come out with Sam, right? He knows he's going to come out with Sam. Gandalf doesn't know about Merry and Pippin and doesn't expect Merry and Pippin to come. That itself is kind of an interesting point, right? The conspiracy has been successful insofar as it has concealed its existence from Gandalf, right? Now, of course, like the real meat of the conspiracy has been since Gandalf left, but clearly there was some conspiracy action prior to that as well. So yeah, exactly, Blue Wizard. It does show that they might not be good at lying low while they're on the road, but they were not bad at keeping their conspiracy from Frodo and even from Gandalf. So that's good. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, Lincoln. Gandalf is shrewd, but he's not omniscient. Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to tell you what his identity is, but notice he emphasizes, but you need ask no questions, right? So he's trusting Butterbur, but he's not opening his whole mind to Butterbur. He's not going to tell Butterbur about the ring. He's not going to tell Butterbur anything about the ring. He's not even saying anything so vague as what Strider has said, right? That he is carrying out of the Shire something that is of interest to him and his friends, right? He doesn't know anything about why Frodo is coming or why he's in trouble, right? Just that he's my friend, he's going to be coming, he might be in trouble, please help him and don't ask any questions, right? Yeah. Amathorn, the reason I think that he is opening up the possibility, Amathorn is saying that it seems odd that Gandalf would suggest that there's even a possibility that he'd be with Frodo. I think that his reason for that is simply that he's hoping to get... Remember, he told Frodo, I'm hoping to be back, for your farewell party at the latest. He doesn't know what's going to happen. He's hoping that Frodo's going to leave, but his plan is still to get back to the Shire as soon as he can after his trip to Isengard. So he's going to, so he wants to be there to help out. So he's not ruling out that he's certainly not going to necessarily come back and check in at Bree on the way back to the Shire. Yeah, Aragorn is wondering if Gandalf's worried that the Black Riders could come and get the information from Butterbur. Yeah, I think that's possible, sure. What he doesn't know can't be tortured out of him, right? But, which is, seems, of course, a cold and heartless thing to say, but there it is, right? There is some truth to that, right? But at the same time, I think it's also... Butterbur doesn't need to know, right? He really doesn't. Not for the purpose of... Besides, he's not part of the team, right? He's not one of the people... He's not like Aragorn and Elrond. He's not part of the whole story. The ring is not his concern. So it totally doesn't surprise me that Gandalf says nothing about the ring to him and merely appeals to him in the manner of friendship, right? And yeah, Mad Violinist, I agree that he wants Frodo to leave the Shire by the end of July before he could get back. But of course he knows stuff can happen on various ways, right? So maybe that's going to happen, maybe it won't. And I agree, he's not risking Butterbur needlessly, because if Frodo had left in July, he would have been ahead of the trouble pretty far ahead of the trouble, really, right? Anyway, so, right, do whatever you can for him, and I'll be grateful. It is also possible, Ardent Crayon, that Butterbur would accidentally spill the beans in daily conversation. Can he be trusted? Yeah, even Strider thinks he can be trusted, right? But again, there's trust him for what, right? And is he necessarily going to be able to keep a big secret like that to himself? I don't know. Tension, I agree. Mind that is a really interesting thing, right? Mind that. Keep that in mind. He'll be calling himself Underhill. Don't forget that, right? You can see Gandalf's acknowledgement, he knows how forgetful Butterbur is, so that's why he's telling him the things that he's got to make sure that he remembers. Okay, so what does he mean by trouble not being far after him? These black men, said the landlord, lowering his voice, they're looking for Baggins, and if they mean well, then I'm a hobbit. It was on Monday, and all the dogs were yammering and the geese screaming. Uncanny, I called it. Nob, he came and told me that 2 black men were at the door asking for a hobbit called Baggins. Nob's hair was all stood on end. I bid the black fellow be off and slammed the door on them. But they've been asking the same question all the way to Archit, I hear. And that ranger, Strider, he's been asking questions too. Tried to get in here to see you before you'd had biters up, he did. He did, said Strider suddenly, coming forward into the light. And much trouble would have been saved if you had let him in, Barlaman. The landlord jumped in surprise. You, he cried. You're always popping up. What do you want now? Okay. Let's focus first on his conversation about the Nazgul, right? And then we'll shift to the confrontation between Strider and Butterbur, of which I have always been a fan, right? Yes, Erokheb, and thus Barlaman Butterbur slammed the door in the face of two of the most powerful beings in Eriador. Yeah, I often think of that, actually. For those of you who don't recognize it, Erokheb is quoting, or adapting, rather, the line from when Feanor slams the door in Morgoth's face, when Morgoth comes to him after his banishment and is trying to recruit him, and Feanor slams the door in his face, and we get that line about, and he slammed the door in the face of the mightiest person in Arda. Yeah, I often think of that with Gaffer Gamgee, with Farmer Maggot, with Butterbur, right? Their ability to send the Nazgul packing is pretty remarkable, I think. Yeah. Anyway, yes, in the face of the most powerful dweller in Ea. Yeah, that's the line. Absolutely. But anyway, okay. So what else do we see there? What else do we... So once again, we see the stalwartness of these fairly down-to-earth characters, right? Gaffer Gamgee, Farmer Maggot, Barlaman Butterbur, all of whom are able to say things like "be off," right? To the Nazgul. It's clear that the Nazgul have an effect, right? It's not just like their effect is their powers are merely waning or anything like that, right? Nob's hair is all stood on end, right? He's terrified, and he's very much impacted by his brief conversation, and the suggestion has been, as Strider, I think, already suggested, or maybe he's not done it yet, and I'm misplacing, but that Harry Goatleaf has been intimidated by them, right? Yeah. So, Erokheb says that Barlaman is the lord of one of the strongest fortresses against the riders, we're told. Yeah, we'll see that, actually. This is one thing that I always want to recall, which I think we can see a trend for here, right? The riders, it's not necessarily that they're weaker, exactly, but their power is not as strong here as it would be back in Minas Morgul, right? As it would be in Mordor, as it would be under the Dawnless Day, right? There is a reason why Sauron spreads his darkness over the land before his armies come out, right? Here, in lands far from Mordor, untouched by the shadow, the Nazgul struggle, right? Their power is reduced, or rather the power to resist them is still fairly strong. People like Farmer Maggot, right? With a close relationship with the earth, they're in the shine. They can resist the Black Riders. Now, could he fight them off, right? Would Farmer Maggot be able to take down the Nazgul? No, I'm not suggesting that, right? The Black Riders could, draw their weapons and chop up Farmer Maggot, presumably. But yeah, it's that there is. It's easy to think of this. Well, it's easy to think of this in like simplistic video game terms, right? I say simplistic, by the way, because of course this is one of the things I think Lotro does such a good job on with the whole dread and hope mechanic. But if you think about this in like RPG terms, right? If you imagine like, so the Nazgul, they're like bosses, right? They have all these, like their attribute scores are super high. They have a ton of hit points. And, you know, so like wherever they go, right? Wherever they go, they're going to be just super powerful, right? But it's not like that. It's not how it is in Middle-earth, right? The power to resist them depends on different things. Their strength or weakness depends on different things. Anyway, it's yeah, Lincoln, they are a long way from striking men to the ground from sheer terror, as we'll see in the Battle of Pelennor Fields. Absolutely. The kind of power that they are able to wield over people, the kind of oppression that they can bring to the spirits of people, to lock them into, to drive them to despair, to make them incapacitated with fear and with dread. They don't have that here in the Shire. They don't have none of it, right? Remember the effect that the hearing the cry and the song of the Nazgul in the air in the Marish, or above the Marish, right? Right after the hobbits were singing their drinking song. That is something that we see. It still affects them, right? But it's not going to affect them nearly as much as that same song is going to, that same cry is going to affect them in the Dead Marshes, for instance, right? So anyway, it's just not as simple as we tend to think of it if we get ourselves thinking in, as I say, in like, role-playing game terms or something like that. Yeah, I wonder, Marielle. Marielle's wondering if the ancient, the ancientry of Bree, having been a haven of stability and possibly of peace, from time out of mind, could have have an impact and make it harder for them to sort of exert themselves here. Possibly. Anyway, yeah, it's yeah. Anyway, okay. So we've got Butterbur slamming his door in their face, right? But we do see the impact they have on people. We see Nob's terror. We see the dogs and the geese, right? The dogs are yammering and the geese are screaming. It's uncanny, right? Uncanny is an important word. Remember, he said that to Frodo. Like they don't like anything out of the way uncanny, right? When Frodo was tumbling or conjuring or whatever he was doing, anything that looks like it's magical, anything that looks like it's out of the ordinary, they're not fans of in Bree, right? And that's exactly what it looks like when all the dogs and when all the animals are upset, right? The dogs and the geese are making a big fuss, and what is there a storm coming, right? Is there, like, what is it that they seem, the way that they're reacting to these guys, these black men as he calls them, seems to be it's seriously uncanny. There is something very strange going, just that he can feel their presence, right? It's a big deal. Okay, good. He bid them be off and slams the door on them, but they've been asking the same question all the way to Archit, right? They're looking for Baggins, right? And he can tell they don't mean well, right? If they mean well, then I'm a hobbit, right? And by the way, what does that suggest about the relationships between, or the attitudes, right, between the big people and the little people in Bree, right? That he would say, if they mean well, then I'm a hobbit. But anyway, Kyle, yes, I do think. Kyle asks, does Barliman lump Strider in with the riders here because he sees them on similar terms? Yeah, Strider's not uncanny. Right? The geese don't scream when Strider walks by. That's pretty clear. But it is equally clear that Barliman considers that they're both of them in the same category of trouble, right? Remember, that's what this paragraph is about. He says, here you are and trouble is not far off, seemingly. And Frodo says, what do you mean? This is the explanation of what he means by trouble, right? So these black men are bad, right? They're uncanny. There's something really just not right about them. And then on top of that, there's that Ranger Strider asking questions, right? Tried to get in here to see you before you'd have butter sup, he did, right? I mean, can you imagine that? So what does that show us about Butterbur's conclusions, right? Clearly, he thought that was what? Rude, forward, right? He obviously assumes that Strider is up to no good, right? That Ranger Strider has been asking questions. Yeah, interrupting hobbits at dinner is inconceivable. Yeah, I mean, seriously, right? Who does that? But again, I think that the point here is, look how importunate he was, right? This guy is trying to get at you in the worst way, right? So bad that he just like, as soon as you got here, right? We're going through the basic opening stages of hospitality, right? And he's all like, I need to see them right away. So like, it would have been sketchy enough for that Ranger guy to, be asking after the new hobbits, right? Who just come. That by itself is strange. Because remember, what is Butterbur thinking? What are you thinking? How do you read this? Let's try to read between the lines here and figure out what is going on in Butterbur's mind. What's he afraid of? Or what does it sound like? What conclusions has he come to? What does he think Strider's doing? What is he afraid of? You see what I mean? Because it's clearly in his mind a bad sign that Strider not only wanted to talk to them, but was so darn impatient to talk to them, right? What do you think? Notice, first of all, the first sort of clue we get to his frame of mind about Strider here is the direct parallel, right? Black Riders have been asking questions. That Ranger Strider has been asking questions too, right? So you've got two very sketchy groups of people asking after you, right? Trouble's obviously not far behind. So he clearly associates the two of them together. They're not identical. Does it mean they're necessarily working together? I don't know. But, I don't think that Butterbur clearly says that. But Arden Crayon, I agree. He does have kind of provincial attitudes in a sense, right? But yeah, he definitely assumes that Strider is up to a similar kind of no good, right? That the Black Riders are. Okay, so what do we think of? So Marielle is suggesting that Butterbur's afraid Strider sees Frodo and company as easy marks. Yeah, I mean, as far as we know, right, Butterbur finds Strider a disreputable guy. Maybe he's a highwayman for all he knows. He could be a ruffian. He doesn't know that for sure, right? Presumably he would not welcome him in the Prancing Pony if he had any solid reason to believe that Strider is a highwayman. But he certainly looks like somebody who might not be above that, right? Remember how Sam has never heard no good of people who come out of the wild, right? People who are living rough like that. Marielle, Gandalf clearly has not given an endorsement of Strider to Barliman, which is interesting in itself, right? These are the two friends that Gandalf has in this area. He has not hinted to Butterbur that Strider is to be trusted. He must know that Butterbur does not trust Strider, right? And yet he has not, he hasn't clued Butterbur in about anything about Strider's real identity or even just his own friendship with Gandalf, right? So I think that's interesting in itself, right? Gandalf, that is, seems to be willing to, possibly eager to, maintain Strider's cover, right? Neither of them clearly, and that's exactly what Bible teacher up there was just saying. They seem to be in agreement that his cover is to be maintained. Villoria, it does seem possible that Aragorn has not authorized Gandalf to do that. That Strider would not want his cover to be blown in that way. That does seem likely. Well, so I think that Butterbur is potentially hinting that he thinks that Strider could be working with the Black Riders. If he's so all fired eager to get at these hobbits, right, who have just arrived in town, he can't know them or anything, right? Here are these poor hobbits from the Shire just arrived in town, and he's figured out or recalled, like, is probably Gandalf's friend, right, who's arrived from the Shire, and the first thing that happens, like, they've barely even taken off their cloaks, and here's this super sketchy ranger who wants to get at him right away, right, asking the same questions or very similar questions to what the Black Riders were. And it's clear that they're up to no good. And he's pretty sure Strider's up to no good either. Good, Mad Violinist says, and how did he know they were there anyway? Really good question, right? That's a wonderful point. That looks really sketchy, right? Now, we know how Strider knows that they're there. He was hiding behind a bush and watching them, and then he crawled over the gate in secret so that they didn't even know that he'd come into town, and he stalked them to the Prancing Pony and then tried to get in to talk to them, right? So yeah, like, what might Butterbur have been thinking? Why would Butterbur not have trusted him? Well, he might not have trusted him because he might have suspected, because, Mad Violinist, you're absolutely right. Nobody at the Prancing Pony should know that the hobbits are there, right? So if Strider, came up to Butterbur within like 5 minutes of the hobbits arriving at the inn and said, you have hobbits from the Shire, I need to talk to them. Butterbur's got to be thinking, dude, how did you know are you stalking them, right? Have you been trailing them, right? Did you mark them on the road, right? And now you want to come out in my establishment? I mean, that's got to look awful. Nobody else in the building knows that, except for Nob, right? And maybe he's talked to somebody, but not to Strider, and not within 5 minutes, right? So absolutely, like, he's got to think. So what is Butterbur thinking? Well, he's probably thinking that Strider did like some super disreputable things, right? Like hid under a hedge and overheard their conversation and then stalked them and climbed over the gate, right? Which is exactly what he did. But that's exactly what Butterbur is thinking, right? That he and he's probably in the pay of the Black Rider. That's exactly the kind of scamp that the Black, who would agree to work with the Black Riders, because he must be completely unscrupulous. So there's all kinds of reasons for not only for him to see Strider in parallel with the Black Riders, but for him to just kind of lump them together into a unit. Now let's look at Strider's reaction. Tried to get in here to see you. He did, said Strider suddenly, coming forward into the light, and much trouble would have been saved if you had let him in, Barlaman. The landlord jumped with surprise. You're always popping up. What do you want now? I love this. One of my favorite lines in this conversation is, you're always popping up. Right? How tantalizing is that? Okay. Strider talking about himself in the third person is really fun, right? I think that Strider's talking of himself in the third person is a way of teasing Butterbur, right? He's kind of trolling Butterbur for not knowing that he is that he was there all along, right? I'm sitting here listening to you talk about me in the third person, and I'm going to emphasize that the fact that I'm standing here listening to you talk about me in the third person by joining the conversation and carrying on talking about me in the third person, right? Yeah, I think that's I think that's again him just sort of teasing Butterbur for how clueless he is, right? You didn't even notice me there. I think this is a sort of a gentle dig that we're going to see him come back to, right? Butterbur, you're not competent, right? You're not going to succeed in, what help can you give, right? Here I am. Anyway, so much trouble would have been saved if you had let him in. And of course, that's interesting in retrospect, right? No reason to criticize Butterbur, I think, for drawing the conclusion about at the beginning, right? Now, Arden Cran, you're right. Strider does know his own reputation. He seems to have cultivated that. And so, no, he could hardly have expected Butterbur to act otherwise. It was an interesting place, right, where he had to risk his own cover, right, in order to get Butterbur to let him in to try to save a disaster, and then a disaster in fact actually happened, right? You're always popping up though. What does that suggest? You're always popping up. The reason I love this is that, first of all, it's a really interesting response under the circumstances. Does this really happen a lot? Is he often like talking about Strider with somebody, and then Strider's like, I'm actually standing right here? Like, has he had this experience a great deal? I wonder, right? His reaction to Strider stepping out of the shadows is not, that's the last thing I expected. He's like, you again, right? Like this keeps happening, right? He does seem to just appear in town whenever he pleases. I agree. It's certainly true that he. It's certainly true that he, comes in and goes out. Nobody knows when he's gonna appear. So yeah, he's seen Strider come and go, but again, here now, like under these kinds of circumstances, that this would be his first reaction. You're always popping up. Like, this is, darn it, Strider did it to me again. Is fascinating. What it suggests to me is not that he generally, shows up out of the dark corners of small private rooms like this necessarily, but just that this is his experience with Strider all the time, right? When Strider comes into town, I don't think he normally does so with great fanfare, right? What is Barrowman's experience? Barrowman's experience is looking over into the corner and whoop, oh, there's Strider all of a sudden, right? I didn't really notice him come in. I didn't know he was in town. He's not been here in weeks. Yeah, it's like a bad penny always turning up, Valori, right? That he does keep a low profile, right? Again, he doesn't come in with a big he doesn't come in with a big fanfare, as I say. But yeah, he Strider, or rather Butterbur's experience of him is the one who is always just suddenly there, right? Suddenly appearing when you don't expect him. Maybe it does imply, Fourth Dauntless, that Strider shows up at unexpected times and trouble always seems to be going on. Maybe it is something like, as Wheelrider suggests, that something like Gandalf Stormcrow, right? Possibly. But it's interesting that that's what he sort of associates him with. And I would want to respond also to, who was talking? But yeah, Croker was saying that he doesn't seem fearful of Strider, right? That is, he doesn't respond in terror. You're always popping up. What do you want now? That doesn't sound like the words of somebody who is in genuine fear that Strider is going to pull out a knife and stab him, right? So if he thinks ill of Strider, he doesn't seem to think as ill of him as all that, right? He doesn't like his sort, right? He doesn't approve of him. He thinks he's up to no good, but he's not scared for his skin right now, right? Yeah. He does sound more like annoyance, O'Malley, and in part I wonder if it's because he recognizes that Strider is making fun of him, right, with, again, his third-person address here. Ambrosius Aurelianus, I agree. His lack of fear for Strider does suggest that public persona that Strider has cultivated in Bree might be disreputable, but it's clearly not violent or threatening. There does not seem to be reason to fear that he's just gonna kill you. Okay, let's keep going. "He's here with my leave," said Frodo. "He came to offer me his help." "Well, you know your business, maybe," said Mr. Butterbur, looking suspiciously at Strider. "But if I was in your plight, I wouldn't take up with a ranger." "Then who would you take up with?" asked Strider. "A fat innkeeper who only remembers his own name because people shout it at him all day? They cannot stay in the pony forever, and they cannot go home. They have a long road before them. Will you go with them and keep the black men off?" "Me? Leave Bree? I wouldn't do that for any money," said Mr. Butterbur, looking really scared. "But why can't you stay here quiet for a bit, Mr. Underhill? What are all these queer goings-on? What are these black men after? And where do they come from, I'd like to know?" Okay. Interesting. Ethelwald says, "Does this show that there aren't many rangers in Bree?" It does imply that they're not a lot of them right there, right? I think perhaps. Okay. First of all, Frodo's move here. So he's witnessing the confrontation between Strider and Butterbur. And the first thing he does is be open and trusting with Butterbur again, right? He came to offer me his help. Implicitly, I think, the way that I read that, Frodo's asking his advice, right? Frodo was in the midst of making this decision, right? He had to choose whether or not to trust Strider. Remember, that's where Butterbur interrupted him, right? Sam had said, no, I think we shouldn't trust him. I think we should be careful and not go off with him, right, to a dark place far from help. And Frodo had just said, no, I don't think he's a servant of the enemy, right? And we talked about that kind of connection that Frodo seems to be sensing, that non-logical reason for trusting Aragorn that he seems to have, right? But all of a sudden now he has an opportunity to remember, Butterbur has just said that Gandalf is close to him, right? He's a friend of Gandalf. He will stand up for Gandalf. Gandalf seems to trust him. So he obviously is an important local figure and very well respected by the people of Bree, right? Who are all referring him to Barlaam for information for his book, right? So the first thing he does is appeal to Butterbur. He came to offer me his help. Doesn't ask him his advice explicitly, but that seems to be, why else mention it, right? He seems to be inviting Butterbur to comment on it, right? He came to offer me his help. "Well, you know your own business, maybe," said Mr. Butterbur, looking suspiciously at Strider. "But if I was in your plight, I wouldn't take up with a ranger." His advice is unequivocal, right? No way, man. Like, Are you kidding? Do you know who this guy is? Do you know what kind of a character? This guy is not like an upstanding member of our community, right? This guy is a dodgy vagabond who just randomly pops up at random times. And, we have no idea where he is or where he goes or what he does when he's not here. And every reason to think dark thoughts about him, right? So I'm going to look suspicious at him. I'm going to say, no way you should trust that guy, right? But notice it's not personal, right? Strider? No, he's totally untrustworthy. No, he's a ranger, and rangers are untrustworthy, right? He doesn't, he is in a category of undesirables to Butterbur, right? He says nothing personally about Aragorn here. In fact, if you remember, there are very few things that he does say about Aragorn. If we go back to the conversation that Butterbur had with Frodo briefly in the common room, right? He said that he's one of them rangers, right? So again, he identified what class he belongs to, what category he belongs to. But when he says anything about Aragorn personally, it's not negative, right? Goes about at a great rate on those long shanks of his, right? Walks fast, right? Is very tall and moves around fast. Is that good or is it bad? Well, it's not necessarily a commendation one way or the other, but it's not an insult exactly, right? And he does acknowledge that he can tell a rare tale, right, when he has a mind to. He does know some pretty cool stories, which is decent of Butterbur to say. He doesn't have to say that, right? He could just be like, he's a ranger, he's shady, I don't know much about him, and I don't trust him, right? He could have just left it at that. But it's like, out of fairness, right? He's gonna admit there's some upside, right, to Strider. So the only personal things he said have been kind of good. The negative thing is about his category, as I say, right? The fact that he's a ranger. And I agree with you guys who are really enjoying his really enjoying his statement. You know your own business, maybe, right? I love Butterbur has every reason to doubt Frodo's competence, right? The mere fact that Frodo is obviously entertaining the idea of going along with Strider, right? Because that's implicit, right, in Frodo's statement. He came to offer me his help. He didn't say, I've obviously rejected it out of hand, right? And the fact that he seems to be asking for advice on this suggests he's entertaining the possibility. So Butterbur, who already has reason, right, to question Frodo's competence, given his performance in the common room, literally, right? Now, oh man, like this guy, Gandalf said he would need help, but I had no idea he would need this much help. I mean, holy cow. You can't tell this guy anything. Yeah. It's, yeah, that's really interesting, Ethelwald. Ethelwald says Butterbur still has the letter. Maybe he doubts that Frodo really doesn't know his business, right? Maybe he's actually reluctant to give him the letter. Maybe. Yeah. Oh, that's a really interesting question, Tension. How often does the Lord of the Rings narrator maintain an honorific title like Mr. for a character? Yeah, Mr. Butterbur in the conversational tag here. I don't know. It's an interesting question. I don't think he uses it often. No, he's using it again right down here, said Mr. Butterbur. Interesting. That would be interesting to see. I'd be interested to see the trend. Okay. See if anybody can find this. The use of honorifics like that, like Mr., in conversation tags by the narrator, are there some characters who tend to get them and keep them, like Mr. Butterbur here? Or, well, no, the alternative, Corey, would be to call him Butterbur. Just call him Butterbur, right? Which would be normal, really. Yeah. It's interesting. Who gets that and who doesn't get that, and how consistent is it? I'd be interested to see that. Anyway, somebody study that and get back to us. We'll look at it. Okay, so Strider's burn, right? Then who would you take up with? A fat innkeeper who only remembers his own name because people shouted at him all day? Now, question. How harsh is that? And I mean that as a question, right? Some were, I think, I forget who it was. Someone on the discussion board was suggesting that this is a rather unkingly speech for Aragorn to make, right? Unbecoming to his dignity to insult Butterbur in this way. How offensive is this statement? How insulting is this statement? How angry is this sentence? Right? How are we supposed to be reading that? One thing that I feel compelled to say, remember, and people have observed this lots of times. Yes, JJ, that's exactly what I was about to say. JJ said that fat as an insult doesn't really carry the body shaming context that it has nowadays. That's exactly, JJ, what I was about to say. Remember the number of fat jokes that are made throughout The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, right? Bumber was now so fat that fat is funny, right? Fat is funny. Almost always fat is funny. There are some times when fat is not funny, but fat is usually funny. And what's more, in a slightly different circumstance, that line could be said from one friend to another, right? I mean, if Merry said something like this to Pippin, like something in this same kind of tone, it wouldn't sound totally out of keeping with some of the ways that they talk to each other. Remember, like, if you insult somebody, it's a sign of affection, right? That's something that we see pretty frequently, right? And I agree. Several of you are pointing out the fact that he's a fat innkeeper, right? In particular, makes it not really sting, right? Saying a fat innkeeper, I don't hear insult exactly at all there. Like, this is not Strider saying, like, you're fat and your mom addresses you funny, right? That's not the way that this works here. By saying a fat innkeeper, why does he call him a fat innkeeper? He calls him a fat innkeeper in order to emphasize the situation, right? Remember what he's just, so here's Butterbur being asked his advice by Frodo. What do you think we should, the Black Riders are pursuing us. What do you think we should do? And Butterbur has just said, I wouldn't take up with a ranger, right? And so Strider is saying, and so what's the alternative? A fat innkeeper, right? You would take up with a fat innkeeper instead? Are you setting yourself up? So I've come here and offered to help him. Are you offering to help them, Butterbur? Right? Are you suggesting they should take up with you? Are you going to be better off guiding them through the wild and defend? No, you're a fat innkeeper, right? Fat innkeepers don't go off on adventures. They're certainly less capable of providing the kind of help that these hobbits need, right? Than a ranger, right? What do you need is like, oh, maybe somebody who knows the land and wanders around and goes about at a great rate, right? Maybe going about at a great rate is exactly what's indicated here. Perhaps a little going around at a great rate might actually be just the thing. But Butterbur can't possibly do that. Exactly. Rildoes, he's fat as in unfit, right? Unfit for this job. He's perfectly fit to be an innkeeper, right? Being a fat innkeeper is a successful and happy innkeeper, right? It means he's successful enough to be able to feed himself well. And there's something just kind of trustworthy about a fat innkeeper, right? Somebody, Catriona maybe, was suggesting that like maybe you don't want to try. Do you really want to eat what comes out of the kitchen of a skinny innkeeper? Like you gotta wonder, right? So yeah, I don't actually see fat as an insult at all. But it is funny, right? Fat is funny. It's a constant source of humor and jokes in Tolkien, and I think that the funny here, like it's the emphasis. He's making a joke of it, right? Because it is a joke to imagine Butterbur in his place. Okay, so they shouldn't go off with me, right? Oh, what? So they should go off with you instead? And so he conjures this mental image, right, of fat, jolly Butterbur puffing along through the Midgewater marshes in front of them, right? And that's funny, right? That's absurd. That's ridiculous. And that's, of course, Strider's point, right? You are totally not capable of doing what needs to be done here. Yeah, good. Tilly and I agree. Butterbur even mentions never getting any thinner when he's first attending to the hobbits. That is, Butterbur makes a fat joke at his own expense in their first conversation, right? I'm run off my legs, but I don't get thinner, right? Exactly. Good. Thanks for the reminder, folks. Okay, right. So I don't think that that's harsh. I think it's funny. I mean, I think he's calling him out, right? There's a serious side to it, but the serious side is not like, it's not about obesity, right? The serious side is, and I agree with, people who are talking about fat being actually a positive status symbol in pre-modern days. Yes, exactly. That's, yeah, it is a sign of prosperity generally. So, anyway, yeah. So, okay. So, agreed. Fat, if anything, fat innkeeper is kind of a compliment, or at least sort of a piece of jollity, right? It doesn't it's not necessary. Again, it's not just like a playground insult by Strider here. But what it is doing is it's drawing this contrast. And by the way, don't forget, who's the target here, right? That is, who is the target audience of Strider's speech? I don't think it's primarily Butterbur. It's Frodo, right? Frodo has just appealed to Butterbur to help him decide about whether or not he should trust Strider. So what is Strider doing? Let us juxtapose these two authority figures, right? Or potential authority figures anyway, right? What do you think makes more sense, Frodo? Right? What's the smart move here? To go with me, the admittedly kind of shady looking ranger, or to put your hands in to put yourself in the hands of the fat innkeeper? Yeah. A fat innkeeper who only remembers his own name because people shouted at him all day, right? That's kind of funny, right? I mean, that is kind of funny. Strider is obviously annoyed, right? Annoyed, and he has every reason to be annoyed, because it's clear Gandalf left instructions that he was to help and he's not helped, right? Even the fact that he let him into the common room. Remember, they were just talking about that before Butterbur came in. Like, was that a sketchy thing to do? Does that suggest that Butterbur's fat face harbors dark designs, right? It's... it's questionable. If he is a friend of Gandalf, and Gandalf told him to watch out for these hobbits and to not ask any questions and to help them all that he can, his telling them to come into the common room, he bears a certain degree of responsibility for the disaster that happened there. It's not totally his fault, right? He didn't tell Frodo to get up on the table and then put the ring on in front of everybody, but still, like, they wouldn't have been in that situation. He did, by inviting them into the common room and sort of pushing them to come in. No, he was not maneuvering them into a position where they would be exposed, but he wasn't helping, right? That was not help. And Aragorn can clearly read that, right? No matter what else is the case, Butterbur has not done a great job of sort of following through on his pledge to Gandalf. Anyway, let's see. Notice where he pushes Barliman right away, right? They cannot stay in the pony forever, and they cannot go home. They have a long road before them. Will you go with them and keep the black men off, right? Yes, they're in trouble. Yes, those uncanny black riders are after them, right? By the way, you notice that Butterbur doesn't call them black riders, right? For very good reason, that they don't seem to have been on horseback when he saw them. They were black walkers when Butterbur saw them. That's why he just calls them these black men, right? Anyway, so right, so he's he lays things out for Butterbur quickly, right? He contrasts himself with Butterbur. Now, by the way, some of you are saying that it still sounds a little bit more. I'm not arguing that I think that Aragorn's totally joking. I don't think he's joking. I think he's annoyed. I think he's annoyed at Butterbur. I think he's annoyed at Butterbur being an obstructionist and he's frustrated with that Butterbur was dumb, right? I mean, like, if he was supposed to help Frodo, what he did was the opposite of help, right? And now he's trying to tell him not to. He's like trying to make his own personal job, which he was already finding challenging enough, right? How to convince Frodo to trust him and to go along with him when, he's got very little to do to prove that he's trustworthy. And now Butterbur's not making that easier. I think that's, I don't think that he is merely teasing, merely joking in that. I think it's still a kind of a lighter tone. Again, this is not a playground insult. This is not him just hurling venom at Butterbur or anything. It's playfully worded. But it's kind of serious, right? He's not, I think, best pleased with Butterbur. Okay. Yes, Dorward. I'm going to finish up after this slide here. I'm almost done. One more paragraph. So he lays it out and asks Butterbur to choose. What would you do? They need help. You said you would help them. Okay, Butterbur, I'm listening. What are you going to do? Right? They've got to go. They can't go home. They can't stay here. Butterbur is not convinced. Right? Why can't you stay here quiet for a bit, Mr. Underhill? Right? He doesn't believe, Strider, that that's not an option. Surely, come on. I mean, what's going to happen? Right? Stuff like evil people coming in and murdering guests in their beds. That's not going to happen at the Pony. Come on now. Right? Let's be serious. Fourth Dauntless, talking about the black men description. Wouldn't black men usually refer to black-haired men? Often, yes. It wouldn't nobody reading that would assume that they were talking about their skin color or anything. And of course, in this case, he's talking about neither. What does he have to say about them, right? He calls them black men because they can't see, the only thing they can see of them are their black robes, right? So these are they seem to be men in the sense that they're the height of men. They're not hobbits, obviously, or dwarves. So they seem to be men, and they're entirely dressed in black, and that's all they know or see about them, right? So calling them black men makes sense. Again, they can see neither skin nor hair of the Nazgul, in fact. So obviously he's not going on anything like that. But anyway, and Emma Thorne, I agree. He would more likely, if he were referring to the hair color, he would probably use the adjective dark rather than black. That I agree with that. That makes sense. Anyway, okay. Butterbur is shocked, right, at the idea of leaving Bree, right? That's not even, I mean, come on now. That is not even on the table. He was not suggesting anything of the kind. And when he said to Gandalf that he would render any assistance that he could, obviously he didn't mean like leaving Bree with them and guiding them through the wilderness, right? That is not something that is on offer from Butterbur here. So yeah, that's he's scared at the idea. If that's what they really need, is that, and I think the reason why he's scared, I think that he can, he can see that he's in an awkward position. He promised Gandalf that he'd help them. He'd do whatever he can for them, right? He wants to say, this isn't something I can do, right? I can't do that. And yet, I think he's scared because he acknowledges they need help. Obviously, they need help, right? Maybe they know their own business, but probably not, right? These people need help. The black men are after them. Strider has succeeded in one paragraph, it seems, in sort of convincing, but showing Butterbur what they need is a guide in the wilderness. So maybe you should rethink that whole, if I was in your plight, I wouldn't take up with a ranger. Another way of characterizing that whole paragraph from Strider is him responding to that statement by saying, okay, Butterbur, do you even know what their plight is? You said if I was in your plight, what is their plight? You know what their plight is? Like, they've been hunted away from their home. They're on the run from these terrible, uncanny creatures who are way worse even than you think they are. And they can't stay here because they're not safe here. They're not safe on the road. They can't go home. That's their plight. So, in that plight, Butterbur, what would you do? Exactly, right? Who would you take up with? Yeah. Why can't you stay here quiet for a bit? Again, he doesn't believe. Surely you'd be safe here. There seems to be just like a little bit of denial there, denial of acknowledging. And he's probing for more information, right? What are all these queer goings on? This is not what he signed up for, right? When Gandalf said, my friend's going to be coming through and you give him all the help that you can, Butterbur, that probably sounded to Butterbur like it was right in his wheelhouse, right? Hobbits coming through from the Shire, right? Travelers who need a place to stay. I can give them a place to stay, right? I can shelter them for a while. They can stay at the pony for as long as they like, right? And they'll be perfectly safe while they're here, and I'll help them have everything they need. And, you know, if they need help, like supplies or whatever, like I can help with that to help them along their journey. Like, don't worry, Gandalf, I'm your guy. I've got this taken care of, right? That's got to be what was in Butterbur's mind, right? But now he finds himself in the middle of this entirely different, strange story, right? Is it possible that they are not safe at the pony? There are these uncanny, whatever they were, right? These black men I'm just calling them black men because I couldn't even see their faces, right? But they just, made Nob's hair stand straight up on end. And like, man, this is not what he signed up for, right? He finds himself in the midst of queer goings on, right? What are these black men after, and where do they come from? I'd like to know, right? What are they? Why should we be so afraid to think that guests aren't even safe in the pony, right? And what are they after? Why are they hunting you? That's just weird, right? These strange strangers coming from outside. That's weird. But then they're like them hunting you. I mean, come on now. What on earth is going on? So yeah, I do think, Cookie Mama, that he could be a little worried because he can't fulfill the obligation of care and protection. That like, and I gotta think he must have been super confident when assuring Gandalf that he had it taken care of. Right? Don't worry, I'll be able, because he had this idea of the kind of help that they would need, right? Now that his whole, in one paragraph, Strider has managed to shake his entire conviction, which remember is built on denial a little bit anyway. He's already said how uncanny the Black Riders were, right? He knows that there is something outside the usual that is up here, right? He kind of doesn't want to think about it. Right, he kind of wants to convince himself that everything's going to be fine and they can just stay quiet at the pony for a bit, right? But he's already primed. He already knows that's not really what it's like. That's not really how it's going to be able to go down. And so he's asking, what is going on? And where are they from? And why are they hunting after them? Poor Butterbur finds himself on unexpectedly shaky ground. All right. Well, we're going to pause there. We'll get the revelation of where the Black Riders were from. Maybe we'll even get as far as Gandalf's letter next week. We'll see. So next week is, yes, I will be here next week to have class as usual, I hope. We're starting, I'm not sure, last week of April. I'm still not sure exactly. I haven't firmed up completely my travel plans for London yet, so I really totally need to do that. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be here Tuesday night or not on that week, but I'll definitely be here for the next week, so we'll be good. And yes, Bricktails, there's a poem coming up in the letter too, right? So all kinds of things to talk about. All right, so thanks everybody for joining me for our class. We're going to have our field trip now. So those of you who are on Twitch here can stay with us. I'm going to say goodbye to our Twitter folks. Thanks. You guys have been really active tonight. Thanks for joining me. And I will, again, feel free to come join us on Twitch, twitch.tv/SignumU. Thanks. Bye everybody. Well, not everybody. Bye to you guys. All right.
And Godspeed.
There we go. Couldn't hit the X on my Twitter. I'm like poking it. Okay. There we go. All right. Very good. So it is field trip time. And as you guys remember, we've been exploring the southern outskirts of Angmar for the last few weeks, which we're going to carry on doing. So Maven and Valori, what do you guys think? Should we try to do hunter travel, or should we take slow horses up?
Just a second.
I think if we have any hunters here, D-May's back there, I see. Anybody up here? I think that would, anybody that can get us to Alkire, because that's the only way, hunters are the only way we can get there other than slow travel. I would say if you can get Corey there as a priority, and anybody else that can come along, otherwise the rest of us are going to have to just ride from Esteldine.
Right.
Yeah.
If we ride from Esteldine, does it take us up through the Drakes?
Well, it does take us that road, but I've ridden that road before and not had anything, I mean, even on level and not had anything bug me.
What I'm wondering is if, like, for the first time we do it, if we should just take the slow horses and then we can look around us as we ride.
You mean take our own horses as opposed to taking a slow horse?
Well, either way.
Oh.
I was thinking about taking the slow horses, then I can not pay attention to where I'm going.
Exactly. If we take the slow horse, then we don't have to worry about being
I always miss the turn, too, so that would help.
Right,
maybe
exactly.
we should do that just as a group. We just go to
yeah, so we'll do, because we said there were the two ways up, and we went the one way twice.
Right.
This might be an easy way for us to travel up through the Drakes without worrying about getting lost.
And without having to worry, yeah. Okay.
All right, let's do it.
Wait, Tillian
Western
says...
Stable Master, everybody.
Okay, Stable Master, yeah.
There's a captain around here.
That's me.
Neil.
So, does it... does anybody know? Is it going to take us through the Drakes, or is it going to take us the way that we've been going?
I don't think it does. I think it takes.
Yeah, it doesn't take us to the main gates. I know that because I didn't know that entrance was there till later.
No, but it takes us. Yeah, it takes us another road that. But it doesn't. I don't remember going.
It's next to the
Right,
Drakes.
yeah, because there are 3 passes up. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true.
So it takes us neither the way that is totally infested
Drakey,
with
not
Drakes.
Drakey nor Hillmany.
Right, neither Drakey nor through the
Hillmany.
gate. Yeah. Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Which is not to be confused with Hogmanay.
Right.
I love the discussion we had about Strider's comment. I mean, that is one of my favorite lines.
Oh, yes.
About
Absolutely.
the fat innkeeper.
The fat
And
innkeeper,
yeah, I think it's more salty than it is like vicious or something like that.
Yes.
He's just he's being sassy, but you gotta wonder how many times he's had to overhear Barlam talk about how awful he is.
Right.
That's gotta rub you raw after a while.
Right.
It's a good thing he was raised by elves. Be patient.
Yeah, you wonder where he got the sass from. Is that from hanging out with the Bree-landers, or was there an elf or
Got
something?
it from Arwen. Definitely.
That's right. She had some pretty good comebacks, didn't she?
Well, I mean, she's not my favorite character. She's that medieval lady that sits home and sews tapestries. But
Lady of Shalott.
yeah,
You know, yeah.
what are you gonna do, right?
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm hoping the Amazon miniseries does. I hope we get some kick-ass girls in there.
Well,
I mean, they definitely buffed her out for the movie.
right.
Yeah,
There's some
they made her
opportunities.
They made her into Glorfindel.
Well, I was going to say, right, I was going to say, I know, Trish, you can't approve of that, right? With
No, I don't approve of that.
giving away
We have
Glorfindel's role.
That's
We have a
right.
postcard. We have a postcard of Glorfindel looking at a dusty telephone, waiting for the movie executives to call him for this next. And it never happens.
Oh, poor guy.
Hey, no reason to cut Glorfindel out. Again, this is the thing that I love about the whole long-running series thing, is the ability to not have to make decisions like that. To be able to invest in Arwen's character without having to, eviscerate Glorfindel's character.
That's right. I hope we see Glorfindel in the Amazon series. That would be pretty cool.
That would be fun.
I certainly hope that we do.
Yeah.
But cool. All right, so we're going to do the slow travel?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think there is
Okay.
no swift travel. There's only slow travel.
No, there's only slow travel. All right.
Just say the word so we're all looking
I'm
at
going.
kind of the same
Off
thing.
we go.
There we go.
All right, so I'm going to...
I pulled the trigger too soon, so I'm already going across the downs here.
Yeah, no worries.
Sorry about that.
Just so this way I can pan my camera around and not have to worry about running into things. It's kind of nice. But anyway, so we're starting off, of course, going the way that we've been going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, I think that we'll see how my real question about the Amazon series is how in depth they're going to start.
Yeah.
It really depends. I mean, so on the one hand, I want to say, well, it all depends on how confident they are that they're going to get a lot of series. I mean, if they go really slowly, such that, for instance, season 1 really just covers,
Like Isildur.
well, right. No, I mean, they could, right? But even if they jump forward, so, like my vote, if I were advising them, which I'm not yet, come on now, folks. But anyway, if I were advising them, I would say episode 1, season 1 should be the day that Aragorn learns who he is and meets Arwen, right? That should be episode 1. And then season 1 can easily be like the adventures of young Aragorn, and we're getting the sort of the scene set. We can get some Elrond and Gandalf conversations about, the rise of the Shadow and their concerns and the things that they're worried about, and
the horse lords in their glory in that one.
Yeah, there could be all kinds of things, right? But then we'd get Aragorn on his travels, right? We would see the it's okay. So here we are heading towards one of the passes.
We go through the village,
been,
the Earthkin village, by the way. We go
That's
through
right.
a gorge and then
Yep.
the Earthkin village.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. Anyway, so great. So we're and
Monoliths.
basically, I would say that the it could then end, right? The first I would want to end the first season at the battle in Pelargir, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
With
so he's still Thorongil when when we end, or is that?
Yeah, like I would end like with the departure of Thorongil at the end of season 1.
Yeah.
Like that would be my sort of vote. But see, if you do that, if you commit an entire season of the show to young Aragorn, you're being fairly confident that you're going to do a bunch of seasons, right?
Well, they have 5 greenlit, so.
Right.
They have 5 greenlit?
They have 5 greenlit.
Yeah, they have 5 seasons.
But see, the thing is, they're already talking about, they spent $500 million on the rights alone, and now they're talking about committing $1 billion to the production of the show. And can I also emphasize what a very small percentage of that $1 billion would be required to secure my services? Just saying.
Pick up the phone.
It would
And
be,
you have experience. You've been producing, what are we, at the end of season 3 of the
exactly.
Silmarillion.
It would be practically unnoticeable in that pot of money. But anyway, so but I mean, okay, so we're talking $1.5 million. They've already committed to this. That's a fair bit of confidence, right? That it's gonna go well. So they don't seem to be lacking confidence in the show. So
the merchandising alone is going to make them back.
well, one would hope, right? If they do it properly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. Okay. So that was like the boringest route into
That
Algar,
is the boringest
wasn't it?
route.
Yeah.
That's the one I've always taken, and I've never had breaks, and
I didn't know there were any others for a while.
Yeah, me too.
Whereas I, by contrast, didn't find that one forever. I was like, I found the Drake path first, and I thought that was like the way.
I think it was in the North Downs that you asked me to come help you finish up one of your deeds, which was the worms and stuff. And I was like, "Where are you going? I have no idea."
Yes, that's right.
I had no idea that existed until
yes, you did help me with my worm
I thought
deed.
the worms were on a loop. I didn't know you could actually get to through the worms. I thought that was mostly just in a big circle.
Yeah.
Shows you how many times I died in there.
Right. Okay, well, so this is where we ended last time. We got down here to the stable master. We were looking at their banners up there. We're looking at this big, huge wall. Oh, I see. Interestingly, the skies have cleared. It was really cloudy in Esteldine, but it's clearer here except for the crazy
green discharge.
Yes.
Did you guys talk about this wall last time? I've never been able to figure it out.
We did, yeah. Our conclusion was that it seems to have been a defense, walling this place off so that, because this was obviously a pass, right? The pass up here seems to be of long standing through that canyon and everything. Now one could say that they could be possibly a little bit more efficient and just build a wall like right there up in the pass behind where we just came from. But anyway, having this wall here,
it's almost like they're living in the moat of the.
But this is actually defending from the direction of Carn-Dûm, isn't it? This wall.
Oh no, Carn-Dûm's quite far away though, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, but I mean that's the direction it's in, isn't it? Oh yeah. It's
in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
It's interesting because it's actually on the map. I was just looking at the Angmar map, and the wall's actually on the map.
Oh yeah, look at that.
That's what I assume that is right there.
Yeah, sure looks like it.
But
the little stippling there that's different from mountain.
Yeah, it looks like a row of houses.
Well, the only
it's
thing
like what they got in Fossilroad.
Yeah, it would have been descending from Fasak Laran and Fasak Falroyd, I guess.
Yes.
Those hillmen.
Yeah.
Angmar areas.
Exactly.
Just a sec, hang on, I got baby stuff over.
Yeah, your little one is
on the other hand, my bird
up and at him tonight. And Buddha's asleep? Look at that.
Buddha's asleep.
Listen to the quiet tranquility in the Maven household there. Ross Goebel is at rest here this evening.
At rest, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Although I have 2 dogs outside looking at their watches and tapping their feet.
Right. I'm sure. Yeah. All right. Okay.
So I want you to notice Ponton's title. That's a title that you get. Turn around the other way. He's over by me. Right
he's over by you?
Right here.
Dances Through Dale?
Through Dale.
Oh.
That's a title you get when you complete, I think it's the Dale Rep, I believe.
Wow. Dances Through Dale.
Dances Through Dale.
Is there much dancing involved in the acquisition of that deed?
Not really. I think they just went for the alliteration.
Okay. Is it
You
figurative?
dance with the elves.
In
You
some
actually,
way?
in fact, I discovered today that if you go dance with Thranduil, he goes, "Have you been drinking my wine?"
No, if you had, you'd be asleep.
That's right.
That's funny.
Hey guys, I'm gonna have to log out. Sorry,
Oh,
we got
yeah.
a sick baby, and my
Oh,
husband
no
has to work
worries.
tomorrow.
No
Okay.
problem.
Bye,
no
guys.
problem. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Okay. So let's look about us here. The village itself is all tents. Do we have one single non-tent building?
I don't think we do.
I don't think we
do.
do. Yeah, I mean
It's
most.
all
So
tents.
here in the middle, this
Does
is
that imply nomadic? Does that imply they'd be nomadic?
well, it does kind of. If they're not even building structures at all. Now, I say no, they're not building structures. This has a very heavy wooden frame. It's not like this thing is
Yeah.
portable.
It could just be, like they're not dwarves, so they don't have the stonemasonry
Right.
skills or something.
Right. I mean, it's not totally unlike the Foracal, like the people up in Foracal, right? There we saw lots of, not only like igloos, but all of their homes were made of, wood and skins.
I do wonder if they're kind of related because you have to go through the same sort of prove yourself thing here as you did in Foracal.
Yeah, I mean, it seems sort of similar, though. Again, also it's not nomadic in the sense of like they could pick up and move, right? Because clearly they can't pick this up and move. This is huge, and nor could the people in Foracal pick up and move, right?
Right.
I'm looking at their clothing. Almost all leather. Her dress is clearly leather, even. It doesn't look like cloth. Like the stitching down at the bottom and the front doesn't really look like cloth. The sleeves do.
Hide? Is it hide?
Yeah, I think her skirt is like that seems to be fur along the bottom, like not a row of fur sewn on, but like the native fur of the animal whose skin is the skirt is kind of what it looks like.
Right.
And then you've got sort of fancier leather work across her bodice there, but that's still clearly leather. And then I think the sleeves, which are detachable, right? Like they would be,
Looks
right?
like it, yeah.
So you've got detachable cloth sleeves. And some metal decorations there. But not. And is she tattooed? Does she have tattoos? She does.
I don't think so. Does
Well, or something. If it's not tattoos, maybe it's. Yeah, if you look at her, like her shoulders and her face,
Oh,
both
yeah, you're
she's
right.
got
Face.
markings here. Not. I mean, they're not tattoos.
Purification.
Yeah. Well, they're not. They don't look like. I mean, they're not. They're not colored. I mean, she's not tattooed in the same way that like the Dunlendings are.
Right.
But yeah. Did we see markings like that? Did we have the same kind of
You mean in Foracal or?
yeah, in Foracal, I'm thinking about the similarity.
They were all covered up in furs, so who could tell?
Yeah.
I don't remember really seeing.
I don't remember that either. Of course, I mean they're all bundled up as you say, so we don't get
I think you're right. Like the Dunlendings, you see
Right.
it, but
right. Yeah, they don't go in for the bare shoulders look in Foracal nearly so
in
much.
Foracal.
Yeah.
Well, bare shoulder in terms of
Right, BEAR, yes, exactly. Totally different kind of bear. Yes. Now I'm looking at the decorations on the dude. Especially his like little metal abdomen piece there, or actually quite large metal abdomen piece. I'm trying to see what's on it. Actually, from your Hobbit vantage point, it's right at your eye level. What's in the middle of his
It's
thing? Your flowers are
hard-
lovely,
hard
by
to-
the way.
It's hard to tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just looks like a big disc.
Right.
Either that or it's so worn. It's old and the design is worn.
Right.
It looks like a big honkin' necklace, basically.
Yeah,
It
it's
almost looks like it's like those suspender-like things
right.
are holding that.
Yeah, the
metal
straps.
disc.
Yeah, coming down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the straps. Oh, that's true,
Yeah.
because it's strapped around him too, at his waist or torso, isn't it?
Yeah, where do the straps
Yeah.
come around behind?
Oh yeah.
Oh
he's
yeah,
got
they're
a back
connected to
thing,
the
too.
back thing. Yeah.
Maybe that's their version of like a bulletproof vest.
Well, yeah, it is interesting. I mean,
spear-proof
yeah,
or
these big
something.
plates that they do
Yeah.
seem to be functional as much as decorative. Yeah, it's interesting.
I never get this up close and personal unless I'm with Corey, with the NPCs.
That's right. Sorry, Camran, if we're in your personal space here, but just curious. Looking at their foot gear, sandals.
And look at this guy.
Which guy?
Interesting. I'm just kidding around. With Rildalus.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
just kidding around. He was standing so still.
Yeah. There's definitely more metal work. I mean, I agree with you. They don't seem to have the same kind of like stone masonry, but their metal work is pretty intricate here.
Yeah.
And I mean, even like those like wheels, right? The spoked wheels that make up the clasps or whatever here on his little suspender things. But anyway, yeah. So I mean, they've got much more metal
Declan
than
over here has definitely not gone native. He looks like he just got pulled out of the pony and transported here. He's not a member of the tribe.
Oh, right.
He's
Which guy? Where
this
is
guy
he?
over here, Declan? He's like directly opposite. So he's and I can't remember.
Oh yeah,
what
this
is
guy.
his- trying to remember his. I think he's looking for his brother.
Yeah, he's the bard that sends you on that like
Mr.
really
by
mean-spirited
trade, Right.
dungeon, right?
Yeah. So, that's right.
The one that you and I died in like 5 times.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because we didn't. Oh, and then Rachel came and saved us. Thank God.
Right.
Because we didn't realize we had to keep killing those.
Exactly.
dudes.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Not having any
Halls
idea
of
of like the
Night.
mechanism of the Exactly.
And of course, being stubborn, we were like, "We're going again. We're going again. Die. We're going again. Die."
Oh, those were fun early days. Yeah. But yeah, no, he looks like a Bree-lander. He looks
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
yeah. Or like from the Lone Lands.
Yeah, like from say Lone Lands. I was gonna say Forsaken Inn, but no.
Yeah, well, I was
for that.
Yeah, kind of thinking of that too, but yeah, no, he looks like that. That's his, right? But we know that he's a wanderer, he's a traveler.
Wandering, yeah. Wandering minstrel.
Let's see, with this woman here, we get the, I don't know if that's tattooing or is it something like henna even.
Oh, that could be, henna. That makes sense.
Yeah, so she's got markings in a
really
completely
go for
different
this no
pattern.
shoulder thing.
With the detachable sleeves. The detachable sleeves, which are now, of course, the detachable sleeves were a long-standing thing.
Right.
But these seem to be merely attached by these rings to these metal shoulder pieces here.
And cords, right? They're like leather
Yeah.
cords with the rings.
Yeah. But her skirt seems to be leather too, this green dyed leather. Again, at least so the stitching suggests down
Makes
there.
sense.
Okay, so leather, of course, we're standing under this enormous leather canopy, so obviously we do lots of leather, but these...
Well, we have Auroch. We have a whole pen of Aurochs over here.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Right.
There's no... It's not far to search where they get their leather from. But these banners now, these look woven, don't they? We got the tassels at the bottom. I think these are meant to be woven tapestries.
They could also be leather, though.
I don't know, but it just the irregularities in them, plus the tassels at the bottom.
Yeah.
I think that's fabric. Okay, well, I'm not quite sure what to make of these. And the symbols don't mean anything to me. I don't know if they're meant to or if it's just a design or something. But Bricktails, I also have always thought that these looked vaguely Native American as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Those banners. And I think that's another reason why I'm so ready to think of them as like woven rugs, essentially, rather than leather banners. But okay, so what do we learn from the central thing here, right? Well, from looking at the people and their clothing, we can gather some things, right? First of all, we don't see much in the way of gems. Now, these might not be the richest people, but both of the girls are fairly fancy looking, right? Both of the women are and they've got some decorations. They don't seem to have much in the way of gems, but they do have metal. She does have rings, but her rings appear to be metal rings, like silver, or maybe even steel. I don't know. They're metal and they have designs, but they don't have gems. So we don't have much in the way of gems. They do a lot of metalworking and leather working, apparently, right? Just the level of, like, these women are rather gorgeously apparelled with their colored, with their leathers being dyed. I mean, look at the fashion coordination between her shoes and her dress. I mean, that's pretty good, right? Plus the markings, the cosmetic markings, whether they be tattooing or henna markings or something like that. There's obviously, it suggests a certain amount of leisure, right? This woman is not the picture of somebody who is like working hard in the fields to make ends meet and provide enough food to put on the table, right? I mean, it's, there's clearly, there seems to be a level of comfort here, right? So, who's that guy? This guy is interesting. Hang on, Mr. Clan Hunter here. He's got lots of bright colors and bones. Right, the other guy didn't have bones. He's got bones all over the place, and including, are those shoulder blades on his butt? Are those bones? Are those scabbards? Are those knives?
See shoulder blades on his butt.
He's on both sides. Yeah, they're the same thing as up here. Are those shoulder blades? Are they ribs? What are those? Are those metal plates? No, these are bones around his gut.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then these are metal plates up here. Okay. Copper? Bronze? Maybe? Look at his face, though. Are those just wrinkles, or are those scars?
Look at the way he's got his beard done. I've never really noticed that. And his hairdo.
Are those are bones? He looks like one of the Flintstones with bones woven into his beard like that.
And that really does look like scarification on his face.
It does, yeah. That looks like ritual scarring, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But so brightly colored, this guy's like a piñata.
Check out that bow, wow.
Is bow made of... Is that wood?
Or bone? Or
bone?
Like, almost like ivory.
Ivory, that's what I was wondering too. If it's like a horn bow of some kind, maybe.
Well, again, let's see. Aurochs have horns, but they're not that long.
Yeah. Okay, so what's this now? We've got the row of bones strapped around his midriff.
It's like a girdle, right? He's got a bone girdle.
Bone girdle. And then you've got these metal plates. But in the middle, what's the white stuff? Are those jawbones? Is this like the flattened out skull of his enemies? What is that? The white bit. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
On the left there, it looks like a jawbone with teeth.
It's not symmetrical. Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. This looks like a jawbone.
It does look like a jawbone. Okay. Well, look really interesting.
Boy, he's quite color coordinated. Look at those purple gloves with the red trim. I mean, wow.
Yeah, really, really matching the background color of his
dapper,
little
yeah.
vest here. Yeah, I mean, he's quite a combination of colors. I mean, he's really, he's really.
Well, he is the demonstration of what D. Mason says. If you don't look good, you don't fight good.
There you go. He's taken that to heart. At least if you don't, he's this guy
Apparently
seems to
by
be saying,
higher standards, he's.
yeah, I'm going to at least dress loud. That seems to be his philosophy here. But whoa, he just walked through me there. Okay.
Bye. Okay, I have something over here that was kind of interesting. If we go toward where the chief is sitting.
Okay. All right, let's see.
A piece of architecture,
Ah.
which I have not ever noticed before. Let's see, where's the, is that it there? Yeah. Look at this. Is it this one? Yeah. So across the way here.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot. Is it this one? Yeah, over here. This next bridge here. I have never looked at what was hanging on this overpass thingy. I just now started to look. It's like, what is that? So the stuff on the left, those look like 3 bells or something. I don't know. And then what is that? Somebody's like laundry hanging over here on
Yeah.
the right?
Well, okay. So my theory about that is that, so that looks like a banner, presumably.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Um,
Maybe it's an enemy's banner.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking
Never
this
seen
is
it.
the
Oh,
banner of their enemies. Right.
All right. Makes sense.
To crush your enemies, to see them run before you, to hear the lamentation of their women, and then to, hang their tattered banner up on your peculiar doorways as
trellis.
yeah. to hang, and then to hang your tattered banners up on our decorative trellises. Yeah, it just sounds like exactly like
3
something Conan
sausages.
would say.
Oh, there you go. But you think not, actually? That's what Balwina said.
Three sausages, yeah. Yeah, because you see, now, like, sometimes orcs have banners like that, which seem to be their own banners, and they just don't care. Right.
Yeah, that's true.
But that doesn't seem to be the case here, as once again, we have the decorative wooden trellis flanked by these much neater banners, which seem to have
which
dragons
I assume are the
on
tribe. The tribe. What's this tribe?
them. The Galorg, what the Trave Galorg? Yeah.
And I don't remember what it means in their tongue. He tells us at some point, doesn't he?
Yeah. I mean, this looks like a dragon. The picture.
It does, yeah. Like a Chinese dragon.
Yeah, like a Chinese dragon, exactly. It's a sinuous dragon. Yeah. So no, I think that's got to be the banner of your enemies.
Enemy.
Right. Just kind of tossed over it too, right?
Actually, and these 3 thingies are attached by chains. I wonder if they're weapons of some kind.
Yeah.
Chains like where you whirl them or something and then let them go and they hit your enemy or something.
I don't know. They look like bell pulls, but I doubt they are. At least you wouldn't be able to pull them because they're just attached to the thing. But no, I don't think they're actually bells.
No,
I don't get them. They seem to be decorative. Could they be spoil of some kind, placed symmetrically on the other side
like
from the
sensors?
banner? Or something? Yeah, were they taken from the camp of their foes? And have some significance to them, but their primary significance here is as just as trophies, essentially. I don't know. Okay. Here's the other interesting thing about this camp. That very large leather pavilion that we were under there first, in the middle, that's sort of... It's not the focal point. The focal point of the camp, of course, is the throne over here with, what's his face? What's the name of it? Crannog. Yeah, Crannog, right. Yeah. And so we'll get to Crannog eventually. But see, he's sort of the focal point with everything kind of, he's the end of the path here coming through the town. But that central pavilion that we were just in is the center of the, so we've got all these wooden bridges right leading off to that sort of central thing in the middle, which is that big, huge pavilion. And yet what interests me about that is that it has no function, right? That is to say...
Yeah, it's like a central, like...
Yeah, like a...
It's not even a marketplace.
No, it's like a gathering spot or like a hangout, right? I mean, like that's where you'd have your karaoke parties or something, in the middle of this thing. And it just that strikes me as interesting, that every other area seems to have a function of some kind or other, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't.
It's the quest giving area.
Right. In other words, the place where people just hang out and talk. And it's interesting that they have they have like a hall, right? Here. It's a leather hall, right? It's an open pavilion, but it's but yeah.
By the way, the Krennic has a decorative trellis behind him, and it's got the same stuff on it.
Right. Yeah, that suggests to me that it's trophies too. Right. Because over here we got a couple tents.
I have a horrible confession to make.
Yeah.
I cannot tell you how many times I've been here and how many times I've talked to that chief, and I didn't realize he was missing an eye until just now.
Well,
I had other things on my mind.
Exactly.
Go kill things, go find things.
Absolutely. Okay, see, now look at this collection. Okay. Here at this tent, so we're at the big tent on the island halfway over there, right?
Is he at the opposite tent? He must be at the opposite.
Yeah, I'm at the bigger of the two
there
tents.
You are. Okay.
I'm at the south tent. So we have a big banner on the left of this door here, which is an Iron Crown banner. Tattered and with holes in it. Right,
So
it's all raggedy on
trophy,
the bottom.
Right, that should be a battle trophy.
It certainly looks like
next
it.
To it.
Yes, we've got skulls hanging all over the place on it, right? Skulls stuck in the spikes of the spears. So like it's being held up with spears, and there are 4 skulls impaled on the spears, plus the 2 that are dangling over here, right? Presumably those skulls from heads taken from the battle when this banner was taken. Perhaps this symbol, this half moon symbol with the, I don't even know what it is, sort of sprouty, flowery thing in the middle, right? That half moon symbol. That's everywhere, right? That seems to be a whole bunch of that. That seems to be a primary symbol of this tribe. So they seem to have hanged this on. I don't know what these blue and brown things are at the bottom of the rope here. Are those gems, you think? Mungwe does look rather like a lemon wedge. You're right. But, yeah, I don't know what those things are. You think they're made of metal, Amathorn? They might be. But anyway, that definitely looks like a trophy. Over on the other side, we've got this peculiar geometric banner. And I don't know what's up with that. If the other one is Angmar, is this supposed to be the banner of one of the Hillman tribes that's allied with Angmar? Then? Perhaps? Wait, but hang on a second. No, because that symbol is the same symbol that's on the tent. Yeah, no, I got to think that this one is actually one of their symbols. This sort of strange set of geometric symbols, right? The regular square, the wavy square, and then the square, the solid square with the blue circle with the swirly inside it. This actually looks kind of like an SAT question or something, You know, like I'm going to be asked to say, like, now which one of these symbols is, I mean, sorry, maybe that's just me. But this dragon shield, whose shield is that? This worm shield?
Yeah, I couldn't figure that out. That's around a couple of spots. I mean,
where have we?
It's to me, it's an odd symbol to see here. I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. I don't know.
Well, we saw the
around and stuff.
dragonish, you know, the worm symbol on their banners there.
Mm-hmm.
So does anybody, who carries these things into battle? These shields? I don't really know. I can't remember. We'll have to keep our eyes out for that. See if we see anybody carrying that shield around. What I'm wondering here is that, again, are these shields trophies, or is this just a supply cabinet? You know, are these the shields that they use, or are they? And I think I'm going to go with supply cabinet because we see it inside here too, right? These are presumably not trophies, right? These weapons at this weapon rack in here would seem to be just stock, right, for their warriors. Though, look, this shield, or this spear rather, is beautiful. Look at that spear with a really cool divided point and the beautiful carvings all up and down it. And then it gets a string of beads hanging off it. Look at that. I mean, come on, that is the deluxe edition right there. All these spears are pretty cool, actually. Isn't that bow? Yeah. That is a handsome spear. I like that spear. I'm not such a big fan of this sawtooth one, but... Ooh, and look at the carving on that spearhead. The, like, angelic woman with the hair floating up and the wings. Oh, man. Wow. This is beautiful work. Yeah, O'Malley is saying we should look at the intricate sword hilts, too. Yes. Oh, man. This one a little plainer, but even it. Yeah, I mean, these are very remarkable. Well, so again, I'm thinking back to what we were seeing in their clothing and stuff, right? There's some real sophistication here. This is not, you know, they might live in tents, but their stuff is not crude. Neither their clothing, nor their... So, like, that guard had bones strapped to his midriff, right? And we've seen that, but I can only think of one other place where we've seen dudes walking around with bones strapped to their midriff, and that was the Gauradine. In Even Dim and Forakel, they wear bones all strapped to them like that. But yet none of the rest of this stuff that we've seen has, and even the rest of his own gear didn't necessarily suggest the kind of crudity that we saw in most of the gear of the Gauradine. Yeah, no, this stuff is beautiful. And their clothing is beautiful, and those henna or tattooing decorations, very nice. The elegant cloth sleeves with the open shoulders. I'm trying to figure out this guy, but it's hard to see too much of his clothing from where he's standing on this big, huge bear rug. Yeah. Can't make out too much of it. But by the way, I love your flower basket backpack there. Who's got that? Jegras, yeah.
Chegra, isn't it?
Yeah. That's great.
I think was that from this current festival? I can't remember. The spring festival just ended. Had a
I see.
but I can't remember.
Cool.
Anniversary festival next Thursday. Woohoo!
Anniversary coming up. Yep. It's
Well, I'm gonna need to sign off for myself.
yeah, I should too. It's getting late. I should let everybody go. We'll come back with more fun exploring Algar. We'll see the more functional portions of Algar. We'll go over to Krenog and we'll look at Krenog and then the rest of the encampment, and then maybe we'll head off into the wild and begin to explore the broader Angmar
Hey, if
terrain.
we make it to the opposite side of the encampment by next time, I'm gonna be amazed.
Oh, I'm sure we'll finish the encampment. Not a problem. All right. Very good. So thanks. And yeah, Druid's Fire was just reminding me to mention at last Friday, those of you who follow Grifflet and or Silmfilm may notice that I wasn't here on Friday. I wasn't here on Friday because I was down in Boston hanging out with Lotro folks, and that was really fun. And one of the things that I was talking about was possibly doing, I was proposing a special broadcast that I hope we're going to be able to get together. So we'll see. That hasn't been confirmed, but I'm hoping to see if we can set that up soon, and I will keep you guys posted. But we'll see. We're trying to make that happen. So, all right. So I'll just kind of tease that right now, and we'll see what we're able to sort out here over the next couple weeks. But all right, thanks everybody for joining me, and I will see you guys next Tuesday or tomorrow night rather, at the War of the Ring class. So thanks everybody. Bye now. Thanks for joining me on this epic exploration of The Lord of the Rings, and of Standing Stone's video adaptation of Tolkien's story. If you are having even half the fun I'm having on this journey, I hope you will consider supporting the project by donating at signumuniversity.org/fund.